Okay, so when you think about testosterone and hitting the gym, the picture seems pretty straightforward, right? Bigger muscles, loads of energy, peak physical performance. That's sort of the standard image. But what if a lot of what we think we know about optimizing testosterone through exercise is, well, maybe incomplete or even kind of wrong?
That's exactly where this deep dive gets really interesting. We're going to talk about someone's actual experience, someone who pushed so hard they literally trained their testosterone levels right into the ground. It was a huge wake-up call. Forced a total rethink of their whole approach to training.
Right. And that personal story is really the heart of what we're doing today. Our mission here is to uncover some surprising truths, sometimes really counterintuitive stuff about how exercise and testosterone actually interact. We'll be drawing on that lived experience, but also backing it up with recent research. The goal is to help you avoid the common traps and really optimize your own hormonal health with smart training, not just hard training. So let's jump in. Let's start with that wake-up call. Before the blood work, what did that intense routine actually look like, day in, day out?
Oh, it was classic. More is better thinking.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, I was doing 2 days, 6 days a week. Mornings were always 45 minutes of high-intensity intervals, like really pushing it. And then evenings, minimum 90 minutes of strength training, often longer, just grinding.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a serious amount of volume. What was driving that? Was it just chasing that workout high, or did you genuinely believe more lifting directly equals more T?
Honestly, both. There's definitely an addictive feeling to pushing your limits, that intensity high.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, absolutely. I'd seen studies, read articles suggesting resistance training boosts testosterone. So my thinking was, if some resistance training is good, then more must be fantastic. But even though I saw some strength gains at first, which kind of masked the problem, the red flags were definitely starting to wave.
Okay, so what were those signs, the things you were maybe noticing but pushing aside?
Well, I was irritable, like all the time, and just bone tired constantly. No matter how much coffee I drank, recovery felt non-existent. My body just felt trashed,
Mm.
and my libido completely gone, just vanished. I kept telling myself it was just stress from work, or maybe I wasn't sleeping quite enough, rationalizing it.
So what was the tipping point? What finally made you say, okay, I need to figure this out?
It was actually my wife. She kept saying I wasn't myself, that something was off.
Mm.
But it didn't really hit home until I finally went and got blood work done. Seeing that number, total testosterone at 280 nanograms per deciliter, that was the shock.
Right. And just for context for everyone listening, 280 NGDL is clinically low, especially for a 32-year-old. Normal ranges are typically, 300 to 1,000.
Yeah.
And most healthy guys are usually sitting somewhere between 500 and 800. So 280 is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's way down there. My doctor saw the numbers, heard about my training schedule, and immediately knew what was up. He called it exercise-induced hypogonadism. Said it's actually more common than people realize, particularly with endurance athletes, but also just folks who chronically overtrain like I was. It was a pretty harsh lesson in unintended consequences.
It's a really crucial point. So let's dig into the science here, because we hear exercise boosts testosterone, but your story shows it's not that simple. There's this dose-response relationship, right?
Exactly. And this is where the nuance really matters, and it's what most people miss. Yes, certain types of exercise, like resistance training, like HIIT, can give you an acute temporary boost in testosterone. And yes, regular, well-structured resistance training can help build muscle and support healthy baseline T levels over time. But, and this is the big, but it's super dependent on the conditions. How much volume, how much intensity, and critically, how much recovery you get between those sessions. Even things like timing your workouts can play a role. It's not just lift weights, get T.
And clearly your routine pushed way past that optimal dose. This brings us to something called the inverted U hypothesis. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, it's a great way to visualize it. Think of an upside-down U. On the left side, as exercise intensity and volume increase moderately, you see positive adaptations, including hormonal support, like better testosterone function. That's the upward slope. But if you keep pushing past the peak of that U, too much volume, too much intensity, not enough recovery, you start going down the other side. That excessive training becomes a chronic stressor, and your body starts actively suppressing testosterone production. It drains energy, tanks recovery, and your T levels drop.
And a key hormone involved in that stress response is cortisol, isn't it? What's the relationship there? How does cortisol mess with testosterone?
It's basically an inverse relationship. Think of them like on a seesaw. When you're constantly overtraining, your body is churning out cortisol to deal with that perceived threat, that massive stress. Chronically high cortisol doesn't just make you feel stressed. It directly signals back to your brain, interfering with the signals that tell your testes to produce testosterone. So cortisol goes up, testosterone production gets pushed down. Your body's essentially saying, we're in survival mode. Reproduction and building muscle aren't priorities right now.
And it's important to mention this isn't exactly the same for everyone. There are gender differences in how hormones respond to exercise. We saw that 2025 study showing that while women might get an immediate post-exercise T-boost, it can drop below baseline within 24 hours.
Absolutely. Women's hormonal systems are inherently more complex, mainly because of the menstrual cycle. Testosterone is still vital for women for muscle, bone health, energy, but their levels fluctuate naturally throughout the month. This really highlights why periodization, tailoring training intensity to the different phases of the cycle, is so important for female athletes, rather than just pushing through regardless.
Okay, so knowing all this now, what are the absolute biggest mistakes you see people making when they're trying to use exercise to boost testosterone? What's mistake number one?
Number one, hands down, is that ingrained belief. More volume automatically means better results. I was trapped by it myself, thinking if I wasn't in the gym practically every day, doing hours of work, I was somehow slacking or wouldn't make progress. It's just not true for hormone optimization.
That more is better fallacy is so pervasive in fitness culture. Okay, what's the next major pitfall?
Ignoring recovery, or maybe undervaluing it. People focus so much on the workout itself, they forget that the adaptations, the improvements, including hormonal balance, happen during rest. I was giving my body zero chance to recover and let those testosterone levels normalize. And recovery doesn't just happen overnight. After serious overtraining, it can take days, even weeks. And I've noticed, maybe it's societal pressure, maybe something else, but men often seem particularly determined to just push through fatigue, which can dig the hormonal hole even deeper.
Right. Okay, mistake number three might surprise some people. Excessive cardio. How does that fit in?
Yeah, this one needs nuance. Look, moderate aerobic exercise can be beneficial for testosterone, especially in certain situations, like for obese individuals starting an exercise program. Studies show improvements there. But we're talking about excessive high-intensity endurance training, especially if you're already lean and fit. Pounding out miles and miles day after day, particularly without adequate fueling, can definitely suppress testosterone production. That was part of my problem too, the HIIT plus the long lifting sessions.
It just compounds the issue. Okay, and the fourth big mistake.
Not eating enough. This one is huge and often overlooked, especially when people are trying to get lean while training hard. Chronic calorie restriction, low energy availability. It's just devastating for hormone production for both men and women. Your body senses a famine, essentially. Goes into conservation mode, shutting down anything non-essential for immediate survival. And unfortunately, robust hormone production falls into that non-essential category when energy is scarce.
So you get the blood work, the diagnosis exercise-induced hypogonadism. What did the recovery actually involve? What was the toughest first step?
Oh, the hardest part psychologically was cutting the training volume drastically. Going from 12 intense sessions a week down to just 4. It felt completely wrong. I was honestly terrified I'd lose all the muscle and strength I'd worked so hard for. It went against every instinct I'd developed.
I can only imagine. So once you made that huge cut, what did the new routine actually look like?
It became much more focused and, frankly, simpler. 3 resistance training sessions per week. That was it. And the focus shifted entirely to heavy compound movements, squats, deadlifts, bench presses, rows, keeping reps lower, maybe 6-8, with proper rest. Sessions were capped at 60 minutes, max. Quality over quantity became the mantra.
And what about cardio? Did you cut that out completely?
Almost. Just 1 day a week, I'd do something light, moderate intensity, like 30 minutes of easy cycling or just a good walk. The other 3 days were complete rest or maybe some very light activity like stretching or yoga. The main goal was active recovery, letting the body heal.
How long did it take before you started seeing improvements, both on paper, with the blood work, and just how you felt?
The blood work started moving in the right direction after about 6 weeks, which was a huge relief. Showed things were changing internally. But it took closer to 4 months, maybe a bit longer, for my total testosterone to climb back into a healthy range, kind of to around 650 ngDL. Subjectively, though, I felt better much faster. Sleep improved within maybe 2 weeks. My mood felt more stable, less irritable, probably by week 4. And the biggest surprise, I didn't lose muscle. In fact, because I was finally recovering, I actually got stronger on my core lifts. It blew my mind.
That's such a powerful illustration of that optimal isn't maximal idea. Okay, so let's boil this down for listeners. What are the key training principles that actually seem to work for optimizing testosterone?
Okay, first, the type of training. Heavy compound lifts are king. Squats, deads, presses, rows. Aim for a rep range, like 6 to 8 reps. where the weight is challenging but form stays solid. And crucially, take adequate rest between sets, maybe 2-3 minutes for those big lifts, and enough rest days between sessions. Research really backs this up. Heavier loads with longer rest tend to promote a better hormonal response compared to lighter weight, high volume, short rest workouts.
What about timing? Does it matter when you do these intense sessions?
Ideally, yes. If your schedule allows, try to do your most demanding resistance training in the morning. That's generally when testosterone levels are naturally at their highest, so you're aligning your training stress with your body's natural rhythm.
And frequency. How many times a week is the sweet spot?
So most people aiming for optimization without overdoing it, 3 to 4 resistance sessions per week seems to be the sweet spot. That allows for sufficient stimulus for muscle growth and hormonal response, but also gives you enough recovery time.
Now, let's talk about female considerations. Obviously, baseline testosterone is lower, but optimizing it is still crucial for muscle, bone density, energy, right? What should women keep in mind?
Absolutely. The same core principles generally apply. Focus on compound movements, prioritize recovery, nail your nutrition. But the huge overlay for women is the menstrual cycle. It's not optional to consider it, it's essential. Training needs to be periodized. Generally, women can handle higher intensity and volume during the follicular phase, the first half of the cycle. Then, during the luteal phase, the second half, it's often smarter to dial back the intensity a bit, maybe focus more on technique or slightly higher reps, and really emphasize recovery practices. Pushing hard constantly throughout the cycle is often counterproductive.
Beyond the training itself, what are the absolute non-negotiables for recovery that impact hormones? Sleep has to be number one, surely.
Oh, without a doubt, sleep is everything. Aim for 8, ideally 9 hours of quality sleep per night. Its impact on hormone production, including testosterone, and overall recovery is just massive. You simply cannot outtrain poor sleep. As for supplements, tread carefully. The foundations are training, nutrition, sleep. But things with decent evidence include vitamin D. If you're deficient, get tested first. Ensuring you have enough zinc and magnesium is also important, as they're involved in tea production. Some find magnesium helpful for sleep quality too. But again, these are support players, not magic bullets. They won't fix fundamental problems with your lifestyle.
For people listening who might be thinking, some of this sounds familiar, what are the key red flags, the warning signs you absolutely should not ignore?
Okay, number 1 is probably declining performance. If you're training consistently but your lifts are stalling, or worse, going down, that's your body screaming for a break. Overtraining is often the culprit.
And sleep disturbances.
Yes, big time. That feeling of being wired but tired, you're exhausted, but you lie down and your mind is racing, you can't fall asleep, or you wake up frequently. That's often a sign of dysregulated cortisol, your stress hormones being out of whack. Also, pay attention to mood changes. Increased irritability, feeling anxious or overwhelmed more easily than usual, those are significant signs too.
And specifically for men, there's a pretty direct indicator, isn't there?
Yes. Changes in libido or sexual function, that's a major red flag. Research is clear. Repeated, intense exercise without enough recovery time can significantly tank testosterone. And a drop in libido is often one of the first things men notice. Don't ignore it.
What about getting sick more often?
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you find yourself catching every cold or bug that goes around, it could be a sign your immune system is suppressed. And chronically high cortisol from overtraining is a common reason for that suppression.
And for women, a particularly serious red flag.
Menstrual irregularities or the complete loss of your period. This is critical. It's often a sign of relative energy deficiency in sport RDS. Basically, you're not fueling enough for your activity level. This isn't just an inconvenience. It has serious long-term risks for bone health, increasing fracture risk, and fertility issues down the line. It needs medical attention. The key message across all these signs is, be honest with yourself. Don't just try to tough it out or push through. Listen to your body.
That's such important advice. Okay, let's wrap this section up with some practical, actionable takeaways. What can listeners start doing today?
Okay, my top tip. Start tracking your recovery, not just your workouts. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. Each morning, just rate 3 things on a simple 1 to 10 scale. Sleep quality, energy level, and overall mood or willingness to train. If you see those numbers trending downwards for, say, 3 days in a row, that's a strong signal. You need an extra rest day or need to dial back intensity. Don't wait until you crash.
That's brilliant. Proactive monitoring. What else?
Schedule your recovery like you schedule your workouts. Put rest days on your calendar and treat them as non-negotiable appointments. And please prioritize nutrition. Don't try to drastically cut calories while training intensely. As we discussed, chronic undereating plus high training volume is just a recipe for hormonal disaster. Fuel your body properly.
And for women, that point about cycle tracking and adjusting training accordingly bears repeating.
Absolutely. Track your cycle, learn your body's patterns, train smarter by aligning your harder efforts with the times your hormones are most supportive, and focus more on recovery when they're not. Also, get blood work done regularly, at least annually, especially if you train hard. Ask specifically for total and free testosterone, morning cortisol, a full thyroid panel, vitamin D, and a complete metabolic panel. Knowledge is power here.
What about someone listening right now who's genuinely worried they might be overtrained? Is there a quick test?
Yeah, the deload test. If you're concerned, take an immediate deload week. Cut your training volume and intensity roughly in half for one full week. Pay close attention to how you feel. If you feel significantly better, more energy, better mood, sleeping better by the end of that week, that's a pretty clear sign you are likely overdoing it. And finally, don't hesitate to work with qualified professionals. A good coach who understands recovery or a sports medicine doctor can be invaluable in helping you create a sustainable plan.
Great advice. We've actually got some listener questions that tie into this perfectly. Ready for a few?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, first one is from Jake. He's 28. His total testosterone came back at 350 NGDL. Doctor says it's technically normal, but Jake says he feels terrible, low energy, low motivation. He asks, should he push for TRT or really focus on fixing it naturally first?
Okay, Jake, that's a really common situation, and frustrating, I get it. While 350 is technically within that huge lab range, it's definitely low for a 28-year-old, and feeling terrible is the most important factor. My strong advice would be, before even considering hormone replacement therapy, commit fully, 100%, to optimizing the fundamentals for 3 to 6 months. Dial in your training, not too much, not too little. Prioritize sleep religiously. Make sure your nutrition is truly supporting your activity, no chronic dieting. Manage stress. Do that consistently, then retest your levels. Often you can see significant improvements just from those lifestyle changes. Give that a serious shot first.
Good advice. Next question is from Lisa. She's a woman who lifts heavy 5 days a week, pretty intense, and her period stopped about 6 months ago. She's asking if this could be related to her training.
Lisa, yes, absolutely it could be related, and this needs immediate attention. Please see a doctor as soon as possible. As we mentioned, losing your period, amenorrhea, when you're training hard, is a major red flag for relative energy deficiency in sport, or RADS. It almost always means there's an energy mismatch. You're burning far more calories than you're consuming, consistently. Lifting heavy 5 days a week requires significant fuel. This isn't something to ignore. It has serious potential long-term consequences for your bone health. Think stress fractures and osteoporosis later, and your fertility. A doctor needs to assess this properly and look closely at your nutrition quantity, quality, and timing around workouts.
Okay, urgent message for Lisa there. Final question is from David. He's 45 and has just started lifting seriously. He wants to know how his approach should differ from someone, say, in their 20s.
Great question, David. The biggest difference as we get older is that recovery generally takes longer. Your body just doesn't bounce back quite as quickly as it did at 25. So recovery needs to become an even bigger priority. That might mean sticking to maybe 3 solid lifting sessions per week rather than trying to push for 4 or 5. Definitely ensure you have at least 1 full rest day between those tough sessions. Listen to your body very closely. Prioritizing sleep, 8+ hours, becomes even more crucial. Managing stress is key. And things like thorough warm-ups and regular mobility work become non-negotiable to help prevent injuries, because bouncing back from an injury also takes longer as we age. Focus on quality and consistency over sheer volume.
Excellent point. So reflecting on this whole journey, the overtraining, the recovery, what's the single biggest mindset shift you personally experienced?
It's that realization deep down that optimal isn't maximal. It sounds simple, but internalizing it was huge. For years, I operated under the assumption that harder is always better, that feeling wrecked after a workout was proof of effectiveness. Now, I understand that the truly effective workout, the one that builds long-term health and performance, is the one you can consistently recover from and repeat. It's about sustainability, not just intensity.
And that message really cuts against the grain of so much fitness marketing, that no pain, no gain, push till you puke mentality that, as you found out, can be incredibly counterproductive hormonally.
Totally. And there's often, particularly for men, this added layer of societal pressure, right? Never admit weakness, always push harder. But ignoring your body's signals, pushing through pain or extreme fatigue, that isn't strength. It's often just setting yourself up for burnout or injury. True strength includes the wisdom to know when to recover.
If you could hop in a time machine and give one piece of advice to your younger self, back when you were just starting to train seriously, what would it be?
Oh, easy. Focus on the fundamentals. Master proper form above all else. Prioritize consistency week after week, month after month, over chasing extreme intensity every single day.
Right.
And pay just as much attention to your recovery sleep, nutrition, rest days as you do to your workouts. The basics, done consistently, are what build lasting results and health. Forget the flashy, unsustainable stuff.
So, a final call to action for anyone listening today who felt a connection, who recognized maybe parts of their own experience in your story.
If this resonated, please don't just nod along and then go back to the same routine tomorrow. Take action. Seriously consider getting blood work done. Take an honest look at your training volume, your intensity, your recovery practices. Be brutally honest with yourself about how you actually feel day to day. Don't ignore those red flags. Acting now can save you a lot of struggle down the road. Your future self will genuinely thank you.
And just to echo that, there's absolutely no shame in pulling back, in reassessing, in maybe training less but training smarter. Often, the greatest strength lies in that wisdom to adapt and listen to what your body truly needs. Because as we've explored today, the key really is optimal isn't maximal.